What are you... Mukuro's body started to shake as she turned back to look at Monokuma. He hadn't started talking any differently than usual. Junko hadn't turned off the voice modulator and started talking... Wait. It started talking... Oh, okay. Yeah, so she hadn't turned off the voice modulator and started talking in her real voice or anything. And yet, Mukuro was utterly terrified. She was terrified on instinct. Not as a soldier. Half the reason she was terrified was because of her instincts as the ultimate despair. And the other half was because... she was Junko's older sister. Even through Monokuma, her instincts were telling her that Junko was annoyed with her. Junko? Why are you annoyed? Is it because I betrayed you? Or is it because I didn't die like you wanted me to? Sobbed Monokuma. I'm beyond annoyed. I'm really, really angry. I'm really disappointed right now. I'm so pissed I could take a rage nap right now. Monokuma's anger didn't seem any different from his usual anger toward the students, but Mukuro could instinctively sense another emotion mixed with it. Right now, she could feel that Junko was feeling hopelessly disappointed. It's normal for someone who's disappointed to lose hope, but for ultimate despair, disappointment means something else entirely. To them, disappointment was tantamount to losing despair itself. Mukuro was a member of the ultimate despair. At her sister's behest, Mukuro had soiled her hands many times in order to fill the world with despair. Despite her pride toward being a member of the ultimate despair, there was a clear difference between Mukuro and her sister. Junko Enoshima was despair incarnate. She was born in despair, letting it infect other people's hopes so it could rot them from the inside out, twisting them into her own image. For Junko, feeling hope was its own despair. Breeding despair in others created despair in herself, which caused her to feel both intense pain and intense bliss. Junko had walked the fracture created from the conflict between pleasure and penance all her life. Eventually, that fracture would widen until it swallowed the world and tore it in half. But Mukuro, on the other hand, had neither hope nor despair from the world. At least, not when she was a member of Fenrir. Ever since she was a child, Mukuro believed she was meant to spread despair because of her sister. She didn't harbor any ill will toward the world. She simply accepted that she was meant to spread despair, and chose to walk the same path as her sister. The doubt she felt was only a recent development, and when Junko told her about the plan, when she watched the world burn at the hands of a terrorist wearing Monokuma masks, she never wavered once. However, as soon as she heard about her sister's plan to make their classmates kill each other, Makoto included, a strange feeling began to stir within her. What started as a seed of doubt soon grew into a thorny vine ensnaring Mukuro's feet. As soon as she disguised herself as Junko and finished meeting the other students, as soon as she had confirmed that everyone's memories had been completely taken away, that vine began tightening around Mukuro's heart. They're gone. Junko's the only one who knows about me now. That's it. But that's no problem. It's just like old times. Things will never go back to how they used to be, but that's fine. This should be fine. She had relinquished the past 2 years she had spent with her friends so she could betray them and deliver death and despair onto them. Though her heart ached, Mukuro was beyond feeling guilt or remorse for her actions. But the question, why does my heart ache like this, still remained unanswered. Perhaps that's why she spent so much time talking to Makoto when he was in the nurse's office. When Makoto gave her that one particular answer, something changed inside of her. In return, I promise that if you decide to kill someone, it won't be you. The words Mukuro blurted out to Makoto weren't improvised to further her role as Junko. It was an honest sentiment from the bottom of her heart. She was even planning to ask Junko herself if Makoto could somehow be spared from her plan. Over the past 2 years, Mukuro's interest had been slowly shifting away from her sister and toward the world itself. By extension, her interest also included Makoto, the first person to ever smile at her and make her feel connected to the world. He was like a sapling of pure honesty and had taken root in Mukuro's heart. But by the time she realized that, the tree had already rotted. As Mukuro struggled to understand the situation, Monokuma let out a sigh and said, I wonder which part of you is a wolf anyway. You're just a dog that blindly follows Junko's orders. What does that tattoo in your hand even mean? Are you just a bitch who's pledged her loyalty to her owner? I bet Toko would say that, I'm positive. Monokuma continued to talk as Mukuro stood in confusion. I was obviously lying when I said Makoto's blood type is B. What? You lied? cried Mukuro. A normal person would have been suspicious. I never thought you'd actually believe me just now. I must have misplaced my eyes because I totally did not see that coming. Not even with my ability to predict the future. How shocking. Jeez, I'm about to start crying my eyes out like some sort of robot cat. Seriously. It's going to be okay, Junko, said Mukuro. I know our plan kind of fell apart, but I'm still on your side. Are you feeling alright? Because I'll do anything. Snap. A harsh sound came from Monokuma's mouth. That sound was one of my circuits overloading. It's been so long since I felt this angry. Meet me on the roof of the school. I'll smash out all your baby teeth. Monokuma started shadowboxing in front of Mukuro, who remained frozen in place, clutching a blood pack in her hand. She still looked confused, and Monokuma threw up his arms in frustration. You're so disappointing. I can't even predict it anymore. Roar. A threatening roar burst from Monokuma's mouth as he leapt Mukuro with the sharp claws extended. At that moment, her face became completely emotionless. It was not a conscious action. The defensive instincts she honed during her time with Fenrir temporarily suppressed her emotions as she countered Monokuma's attack. Mukuro grabbed a nearby IV stand and used it to parry Monokuma's claws. However, Monokuma's claws seemed to be made with a special alloy and easily sliced the bar in half diagonally. But instead of following up his attack, Monokuma continued talking to Mukuro. I guess you're not much of a disappointment when it comes to fighting. In fact, if you were so pathetic that you died from a single attack, that would have been interesting in its own way. But right now, you're just incompetent at everything. I'm sorry, said Mukuro. I couldn't help blocking your attack. But there's no way I can fight you, Junko. After all, I'm all you have. I'm the only one who understands you at all. Mukuro's words were riddled with endless dismay. The contrast between her usual stoic self and the way she was acting was so stark, people might assume she had multiple personalities. However, Monokuma just quietly stared at her. He was perfectly still, as if his functions had powered down completely. But Mukuro continued to share her feelings. There's no way I can just leave you alone. And then, Monokuma broke his silence. But, at that moment, a monitor in the nurse's office lit up, displaying a girl's face. Junko Enoshima. At the same time, a voice completely unlike Monokuma began to play from the speakers. Hey, Mukuro. Junko. It had been several days since Mukuro had heard her sister's real voice. Though her face remained emotionless, excitement sparkled in her eyes. However, that shine immediately dulled. I'm grateful to you, Mukuro. I mean it. Junko's voice emanating from the speaker sounded very gentle and kind. Junko? I'm really sorry. I said so many mean things to you. I even tried to kill you earlier, and I was about to make you do something horrible just now. Even though I know about your feelings towards Makoto, I don't... You don't have to force yourself. Even if you didn't notice it, it was totally obvious to anyone looking at you. You never cared about the class photos, but when Makoto said he was going to take one, you made sure you were facing the camera. And then Junko Enoshima, the ultimate despair, flashed a smile. A pure, sweet smile. On the monitor, she looked like a normal high school girl teasing her older sister. And yet, Mukuro could feel despair and anxiety encasing themselves around her. I always thought you should have tried hard to take pictures with Makoto. But I guess that's what makes you so disappointing. Still, even though you're disappointing and annoying, I still love you. Mukuro trembled upon hearing those words. I love you. That's all she ever wanted to hear her sister say. Mukuro believed, no matter what Junko said, she believed she really loved her. She believed she was the only one who could truly understand the despair known as Junko Enoshima. She was naive. As soon as she heard Junko say, I love you, Mukuro realized she never completely understood her sister. It was only at this moment that Mukuro finally understood her sister's feelings. Junko's words right now were kind. Perhaps the kindness was completely honest. The words I love you might have been true as well. However, for Junko Enoshima, this was her way of saying goodbye. She was severing the ties between them. It was painfully clear to Mukuro. And then, before she could even say anything, the girl on the monitor made a remark that cut Mukuro to the bone. I'm sure someday you'll make your dreams come true. Ultimate despairs never talk to each other like this. A simple truth stabbed into Mukuro's heart. Junko had no further use for her. Her own sister was parting ways with her. Mukuro had dedicated over 10 years of her life to the cause of the ultimate despair, And at this moment, it all counted for nothing. But all those years no longer mattered to Mukuro. Her sister's rejection was more than enough to send her into the depths of despair. That's why Mukuro, even now, clung to a small sliver of hope. Meanwhile, Junko was still on the monitor. Yeah, right, did you really think I'd say something that nice? You're so annoying, can't you just hurry up and disappear already? Mukuro hoped Junko would say something like that. She hoped that she'd start verbally abusing her again, or call her useless and incompetent. Mukuro was no masochist, but she preferred to be showered with bullets and contempt than endure this kind of emotional pain. But I love you, Mukuro. Bye-bye. The monitor went black, leaving Mukuro to process the horrible goodbye she'd just received. And as if on cue, Monokuma started moving again. Isn't family love so nice? By the way, did you know that in about half of all murder cases, the killer is a family member? Monokuma spoke in his usual tone of voice, but it was unclear if his words were getting through to Mukuro. Mukuro let the blood pack in her hand fall to the floor and tightened her grip around the iron bars she was still holding. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. 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 Junko, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. She moaned quietly, as if she were chanting a spell, and walked past the blood pack on the floor to Makoto's bedside with the iron bar in her hands. I'll do it properly. I'll make sure I do it. So... Oh? Said Monokuma, perking up. What are you gonna do properly? Do to Makoto with that big, thick rod you got there. God damn it. Oh man, I need a drink after that one. Monokuma's getting a little thirsty there for blood. Are you gonna do him? Or are you gonna do him in? Either way, I'm starting to feel some heart-throbbing excitement. Mukuro looked like she had been completely broken. Monokuma walked closer to her with eager anticipation. Suddenly, Monokuma's body silently floated into the air. Huh? With no expression on his face, Monokuma tried to see what had just happened to him. And in the blink of an eye, an iron bar ripped through his body. Oh, well, shit. I wasn't expecting that, actually. I was expecting something a little bit darker than that. The tip of the bar, which had been cut diagonally earlier into a sharp point, went straight through Monokuma and stabbed into a surveillance camera. The lens was completely destroyed, and the camera shot out sparks as it broke down. The iron bar was still stabbed into the surveillance camera as Monokuma dangled from the other end. He opened its mouth as if to say something, but only static came out. A few seconds later, his functions came to a complete stop. Without making a sound at all, Mukuro had kicked Monokuma into the air. As soon as Monokuma's power source and his bomb circuit had perfectly aligned with the surveillance camera in the nurse's office, Mukuro plunged the iron bar into all three of them. No normal human being has the skill to utilize such a technique. Not even an ultimate. All the hesitation within Mukuro had vanished. Her eyes sparkled like a panther stalking its prey at night. A tense aura surrounded Mukuro, even more so than when she fought Sakura earlier. Ignoring Monokuma's lifeless form, she looked at Makoto as he breathed softly and remembered her sister's parting words. So this is despair, she mumbled to herself. I'm so sorry, Junko. I never really understood what despair was. She spoke without emotion, like a machine, but it's going to be alright now. I finally understand. Hidden within her, passions began to stir. So, I'll make sure I'll make you happy, Junko. I'll make sure I fill you with despair. I'll save Makoto. I'll make sure the others don't die. I'll let them escape from this place. I'll deal with the other people on the outside too. You invested so much time and killed so many people for the sake of this plan. And I'll destroy every last remnant of it for you. This was not an act of vengeance towards her sister who had abandoned her. This was an act of mercy. Stuck between the ultimate despair and the hope she gained from Makoto, Mukuro was being refined into something that was unlike despair or hope. And she had no way of knowing where her path would lead. Oh man. This is pretty crazy. This is like a really crazy alternate thing that could have happened. Over 10 minutes had passed. The sound of the students leaving the gym and making their way to the nurse's office rang throughout the hall. Genocide Jack had continued to dodge Sakura's attacks with her tricky movements. But when Byakuya blurted out, "Enough already, you irritating pervert," Genocide Jack stopped in her tracks. Oh my. Getting chewed out by my bespectacled Byakuya is making my masochistic side get all tingly. They say the line between sadism and masochism is paper thin, but in my case it's more like a Venn diagram. Words can't explain how hot waves of passion squirming from the top of my head to the tips of my toes. As she rambled incoherently about Byakuya, the other students tied her up with a microphone cable in the gym and locked her in the room. Half of the students stayed behind to keep an eye on her, while the rest left to search the grounds of the school. As soon as the door to the nurse's office opened, Kyoko saw a non-functioning Monokuma with a hole in its chest, and the remains of a surveillance camera. It wasn't just in the nurse's office, though. On their way there, the students had seen several destroyed surveillance cameras and scattered Monokuma's bodies. This was a clear violation of school regulation, but if Mukuro was allied with Monokuma, those regulations wouldn't apply to her anyway. The Monokuma inside the gym was no longer moving, and the students had lost contact with the hacker, Beshiki Madurai. So the students assumed that Madurai had taken control of a different Monokuma and went after Monokuma on his own, or... wait. I think I misheard that. And went after Mukuro on his own. Wait. Page 383 out of 383? Then what's this? I'm so confused. Whatever. With that in mind, Kyoko turned and looked inside the nurse's office once again. It was unusually quiet and the beds were empty, but Kyoko could see from the bloodstains that someone had been resting there recently. Looks like they're already gone. Mondo remarked, but as he was about to leave, Kyoko spoke up behind him. I'm going to stay here with Chihiro and search for clues. Huh? Asked Chihiro, her timid eyes widening. Clues? Kyoko continued to speak in a calm tone of voice. Yes, there may be some clues in these Monokuma remains. I figured you would be the best candidate for investigating machinery. Sakura spoke up, but isn't that dangerous? Since Sakura could clearly hold her own in a fight with Mukuro, she joined the other students in searching the school grounds. Kyoko shook her head and replied, I'm sorry to say this, but if things get out of hand, Chihiro and I will just be in your way. I think it's better if we search for clues here instead of doing nothing. Besides, we might be able to use Monokuma's parts to detect any radio broadcasts from the outside world. You certainly have a point. Understood, we'll be exploring this floor for a while. Please shout for us if anything happens. It's pretty dangerous to search the Monokuma bodies just because they all have bombs in them, right? So those two are just putting themselves in danger because of that, I guess. That's pretty dangerous. Please shout for us if anything happens. Sakura left the nurse's office. How did she destroy Monokuma like this? As Chihiro cautiously stood over Monokuma's remains, Kyoko started searching through the room. She reached in on one of the beds and began studying it intensely. A moment later, Kyoko was satisfied with what she found and let out a small sigh before she spoke. Chihiro, let me apologize to you in advance. Huh? I dragged you into this gamble of mine, so if anything happens, run out into the hallway and call for help. What does that mean? But instead of answering Chihiro's question, Kyoko started talking to one of the empty beds. Let me say this first. I'm prepared to hear your story, no matter how ridiculous it may sound. I promise not to decide it's a lie, or if it's a lie or the truth until after I've listened to it in its entirety. Chihiro looked confused. She didn't understand what Kyoko meant at all. Ultimate question lowered her eyes and turned to the ultimate programmer to make a request. Chihiro, does your laptop have a voice recording function? And do you also have a microphone? Yeah? I want you to use that to record everything we're about to hear. But there's no one here. As Chihiro wondered to herself, and began connecting Monokuma's parts to her laptop and turned on the record function, I'm sure we'll pick up every sound in this room now, said Chihiro. Satisfied, Kyoko nodded once again and started talking into the empty bed. So what were you going to do if I told everyone that I'd found Makoto? When she heard Kyoko say that, Chihiro looked back at her and was surprised by what she saw. At that moment, the ultimate programmer was kneeling on the floor next to Monokuma's remains. From that position, she was able to see it. Of all the beds in the nurse's office, there was one bed in particular that couldn't be seen from the entrance. Underneath the bed lay a limp Makoto. Blood bag was hidden next to the bed and slowly providing Makoto with a transfusion. The contents of the blood pack were clear. Rather than blood, they seemed to become some kind of saline solution used in emergency hydration. Though it wouldn't be as effective as an actual blood transfusion, it was enough to keep him from going into shock. Though that was the extent of Chihiro's medical knowledge, she was already surprised that Makoto had been in the nurse's office this whole time. Not only that, but Kyoko wasn't talking to the bed that Makoto was under, which sent chills throughout Chihiro's body. However, there was nobody under the bed that Kyoko was facing. But the moment Chihiro noticed that, a voice rang out from underneath it. As soon as everyone's attention was focused on Makoto, I was planning to take advantage of that opportunity to take someone hostage. As Chihiro cautiously lowered her head until it was nearly touching the floor, she was able to make out who was talking. Surprisingly, the person hiding there was clinging to the frame of the bed. Okay, so if I'm looking at like the picture of the bed here, that's pretty crazy that she's able to hide there. Like a ninja clinging to a ceiling. Presumably, if someone had glanced under the bed quickly, they wouldn't have noticed anybody was there, though Chihiro had no idea how the person was able to hide under the bed for so long. She could at least understand that their strength was beyond normal human levels. There was no question that the person hiding under the bed was Mukuro Ikusaba, but you pretended not to notice. Why? Mukuro's voice was as cold as ice, but Kyoko didn't even flinch and she responded, "Because I wanted to hear your side of the story. I knew you were hiding under that bed. Compared to the others, the frame is slightly more pronounced." Chihiro tried comparing the beds to see if this was true, but she couldn't tell the difference at all. Only Kyoko's natural observation skills could let her see something like that. Mukuro seemed to come to a similar conclusion and appeared from under the bed without making a sound. Her face was stoic and cold. Compared to the bomb inside Monokuma, Chihiro thought she was even more terrifying. However, Mukuro ignored Chihiro and shifted her gaze at Kyoko. She leaned against the wall and let her arms fall to her sides as she threw out another question. "Why do you want to hear what I have to say?" Kyoko thought about this simple question for a while, as if she were searching within her own heart for the answer. "If I have to provide an answer, it's because I wish to remain neutral." Kyoko quietly looked down. "I'm currently missing most of my memories. I don't know who I am, or what talent I had to be accepted at this school." She could hear Chihiro gasp behind her, but Kyoko didn't mind and continued. "But even so, I believe I should listen to what you have to say. Regardless of whether you're good or evil, I must hear all the facts in order to know the truth. Good and evil don't matter. I'll come to a conclusion based on what I see and come to hear. I think that's the methodology that's been instilled into me." "I see. I completely forgot you were like that, Kyoko. But before I listen to what you have to say, I'd like to ask you one question first." "What is it?" Mukuro's reply was completely emotionless. Kyoko presented her with a question as if she were asking it of herself as well. "What was my talent that allowed me to attend this academy?" The answer to that question was simple. "Kyoko, you're the ultimate detective." The answer marked a turning point for both girls. "Thank you. I have a better understanding of my situation now." Kyoko slowly raised her head and presented a theory. "My memory loss wasn't just a coincidence. Then you... No, your group has the ability to erase people's memories. With that in mind, if we take into consideration the situation that's unfolded in the gym earlier, I can only come to one possibility." "Possibility?" "Yes. What you said to Byakuya when he thought you were taking Toko hostage, you claimed that they met 2 years ago. It's possible that might actually be true. The fact that Makoto called out Mukuro's name, the things that Mukuro confirmed and denied, Genocide Jack's outlandish claims. These key factors that Kyoko noted using her special observation skills were converging in her mind to form one answer. It's possible that Byakuya and Toko's memories were also erased, like mine, but I don't think their circumstances are quite the same as mine. But if our memories can be controlled so freely, it calls into question whether the day Monokuma appeared was really the same day we entered the academy. Like you said, it's possible that we've known Toko Fukawa for the last 2 years." "What do you mean?" Chihiro cried, still working on the connecting her laptop to Monokuma's parts. Kyoko continued, speaking to both Chihiro and Mukuro. "We thought we were knocked unconscious with sleeping gas the moment we arrived at this school, but it's possible that we were simply made to think that's what happened. For example, we may have already spent the last 2 years at Hope Spring Academy, and our memories of that time are completely erased. It's even possible that we aren't even ultimates at all, just random people who've been implanted with 16 years worth of false memories." Though Kyoko's claim sounded ridiculous, her face was completely serious. She looked up to Mukuro once again. "Which means I'm considering the possibility that your crazy story is actually the truth." Kyoko's declaration filled the room with silence, But she didn't let that silence overwhelm her. Kyoko cut through it with her own words. Without evidence, all I can do is make hypotheses. That's why I want to hear what you have to say, Mukuro. I have no intention of blindly believing what you're going to say, or what self-proclaimed hacker took over, Monokuma said. She paused and lowered her eyes again, then declared with powerful determination. Even so, I tend to come to a conclusion fairly and objectively as I can. But I can only do that if you trust me enough to tell me the truth. Kyoko's conviction was clear from her voice. Mukuro's eyes narrowed slightly, and the tapestry of emotions flushed across her face as she looked towards Kyoko. But when she opened her mouth, her expression and voice were completely devoid of emotion. That's right. I completely forgot. You were like that. Mukuro repeated this to herself softly, then faced Kyoko and declared, That must be why Junko took care to erase more of your memories compared to the others. Very well. I'll tell you everything. And after Mukuro placed Makoto back onto the bed, she began mechanically telling a story. The story of a girl who wanted to fill the world with despair. A girl who only felt truly happy when she was filled with despair herself. A plan for despair that began 2 years ago, or perhaps even earlier than that. How the world was currently ruled by despair itself, Mukuro provided a brief summary of everything she knew about the plan. That's why she sounded even more outrageous than Kyoko had expected. And through her story, Kyoko was able to learn the truth about herself, who she is and why she came to the academy. The fate of the academy's real headmaster, Kyoko's father. As she listened to Mukuro's story, Kyoko remained silent the whole time. Her face went blank as she learned her father died. Perhaps her memory loss and absurdity of the situation helped lessen the impact somewhat. But there was no guarantee Kyoko would even believe her story. After Mukuro finished speaking, Kyoko remained silent. With her unrivaled mental prowess, she was able to listen to Mukuro's story without interrupting her or dismissing it as nonsense. Mukuro continued, You don't have to believe me. After all, any pictures that could prove my story are with Junko. All I can do is talk. After she said that, Mukuro silently walked toward the entrance of the nurse's office. When she arrived at the door, she spoke again without looking back. But even if you don't believe me, you still listened to everything I had to say, so... Kyoko, Chihiro, thank you. After apologizing in such a strange tone of voice, she turned to the bed where Makoto lay, breathing weakly. Make sure Makoto stays rested. When he wakes up, make sure you give him some sports drinks from the dining hall, or supply room to drink. Please. Of course, but... What are you going to do now? Asked Kyoko. Mukuro straightened herself up. Despair. I need to make Junko feel despair. Mukuro continued mumbling to herself as she opened the door. There's nothing else I can do. No, there is something you can do. Mukuro stopped walking as Kyoko spoke firmly. Regardless of whether Monokuma is really Junko Onishima or Bashiki Madurai, if you're dealing with him, you won't be able to lay a finger on Makoto. I don't fully trust you, but if you're really concerned of Makoto's life, I'm willing to work with you. Unlike Bashiki, who's probably abandoned him already, right? I'm sorry, I don't really work well with others. Mukuro looked away and then bowed her head as she left the nurse's office. But I'll do my best. The doors closed and Mukuro was gone. I'm sorry for involving you in something so dangerous, Chihiro. As she continued to organize the vast amount of information that Mukuro gave her, Kyoko turned to Chihiro, who was still working on Monokuma. As she trembled with fear, Chihiro slowly looked back at Kyoko. Kyoko? What about what Mukuro said just now? Chihiro's face turned pale as she struggled with her words, and Kyoko tried to calm her down. We can't determine if anything she told us was true or not. There's no need to be afraid. But Chihiro shook her head and returned to looking at her laptop. I think she's telling the truth. What are you basing that on? Well, it looks like Monokuma is really being controlled from the outside. Part of Monokuma's system had been connected to Chihiro's laptop, and she was analyzing the data within its control system. And it was then that the ultimate programmer noticed something unusual about it. This control program. I thought it would be another year before the system became fully operational. Chihiro started trembling so much that she was unable to continue speaking. We can't confirm that, said Kyoko, proposing another possibility to avoid jumping to conclusions. It's possible that a similar program was being developed in secret. But Chihiro adamantly shook her head and said, "No, that's not it. It just looks really familiar to me." Coco looked over Chihiro's trembling shoulders to peer at the screen, and that's when she noticed. This program. Chihiro, did you create this? All the Ultimate Programmer could do was nod weakly. Oh, okay. Well then, so using her program. First floor, main hall. Mukuro continued moving forward and was fortunate enough to not encounter Sakura or Mundo. With no interference from anyone, she made her way to a hall as large as the gym and stood before a sealed main entrance. Suddenly, Monokuma popped out of the shadows to block her path. Within this hall, that resembled a nuclear bomb shelter, replete with all manner of heavy weaponry, Monokuma's silhouette was conspicuously out of place here. His laughter rang throughout the room as he wiggled his body from side to side. A lot of wiggling on Monokuma's part. What were you doing at the nurse's office? Did you eliminate your rival from Makoto's affections? Or did you help play matchmaker instead? By the way, don't you think it's kind of adorable to put Makoto and Kyoko into this kind of situation together? If this were a suspense film, those two would be the last couple standing. But if this was a horror film, they'd just die anyway. The killer was alive all along. Splat goes the blood, plop goes the meat. I'm a huge fan of endings where the characters think they're gonna live, but they're really headed to the final destination. Wait, what the hell is a tenation? What does that even mean? Despite Monokuma's angry complaints, Mukuro remained unperturbed. She continued to stare icy daggers at Monokuma, as if she was waiting for him to finish speaking. Well, anyway, I'm just so sad right now. A regulation-breaking delinquent is disrupting the harmony of this peaceful academy. I can't even keep one of my students from running wild. Time to say goodbye to your incompetent headmaster. I'm gonna use Monokuma Evolution to become a big Magnum headmaster and mold you into a decent student. As soon as he said that, Monokuma extended his claws and waddled towards Mukuro. So if I'm gonna mold you, then I gotta kill you first. Right as he finished speaking, Monokuma suddenly charged at Mukuro like a spiked volleyball. But Mukuro was faster, and dodged Monokuma's attack. She jumped back, keeping her distance from Monokuma, just in case his claws could extend even longer. Just then, a shadowy figure appeared next to her. Mukuro twisted her body to its limits and just narrowly evaded the figure's attack. When she landed on the floor, she immediately saw. So what does the immortal killer want anyway? Are you gonna tell the others the truth and escape with them? Even though you know what the outside world is like right now? Two Monokumas were speaking to Mukuro in unison. Honestly, I don't mind if you do that. I can just imagine the look on everyone's face when they discover the truth. It fills me with such heart-throbbing excitement. The two Monokumas continued to speak in stereo sound. You said you'd destroy my plans, but there's no happy ending waiting for you, no matter which route you take. And you only have yourself to blame for that. Don't tell me you thought they'd be grateful to you. Even if you guys escape here, do you think they'll still forgive you when you get a whiff of that nasty air outside? Some of them might prefer to stay in school, and some might even resent you for being kind and showing them the truth. But then again, this is all your fault anyway, so it doesn't really matter what they think of you. Monokuma made a little mistake. Despite facing down two Monokuma made a little mistake. Despite facing down two Monokumas, Mukuro's expression didn't waver. She understood that controlling two Monokumas simultaneously was a piece of cake for Junko. Mukuro drew an arm-length metal bar, and from seemingly nowhere, and readied herself. It was the remains of the IV station from the nurse's office, sharpened into a pointed weapon. With her weapon in hand, Mukuro responded in a cold, mechanical tone. That's fine. I'm already used to that. None of the fear she felt when Monokuma suggested that Makoto would blame her appeared on her face. Her path was clear to her now, and she calmly issued her demand to Monokuma. Junko, open the gates. The shock of such a straightforward demand left both Monokumas momentarily speechless, but soon they replied, Huh? Why? So we can all leave together. Another straightforward answer. Both Monokumas faced each other and began gesturing as if they were whispering to one another. Mukuro knew their movements were intended to mock her. Unmoved, she continued to speak to Junko directly. I think they'll understand if I show them the outside world, and then they'll stop doubting Makoto. You always find new ways to disappoint me, Mukuro. Did you forget why the school has an air... Did you forget why the school has an air filtration system? It's true that the air outside has polluted, but I don't think it'd kill us immediately. Besides, it's better than being trapped in the school and forced to kill each other. How can you be sure the others will go along with you? You know what I mean, right? Before the former headmaster got turned into a space dust, he interviewed the others, and they agreed that they wanted to stay in the school. That was before the memories had even been erased. Do you really want to betray their wishes? Mukuro blinked, and slowly stepped forward. I don't really care about their feelings. Huh? You're all I need, Junko. So don't worry, I'm always watching out for you. And I'm gonna make sure you feel despair, and I'm gonna make Makoto, and the others, happy. If you want to revel in your own despair that badly, then I'll trust the hope Makoto gave me, and take my chances with them instead of you. Mukuro's brief but powerful words caused the Monokuma to turn and talk to each other again. Oh my, this doesn't look good at all, Monokuma A. This child doesn't realize her own hypocrisy. She's so disappointing that she's even starting to reach critical mass, right, Monokuma B? The two Monokumas looked at Mukuro, who seemed ready to destroy them, and said, What do you think, Monokuma C? Oh shit. Mukuro was taken aback by their question, but her instinct suddenly kicked in when she immediately dodged away. At that moment, a third Monokuma, claws extended, passed by where her head had been previously. This new Monokuma unit landed with several spins and faced Mukuro, who had clung to the remains of a surveillance camera still attached to the ceiling. I agree with you both, A and B. The three Monokumas lined themselves up. To the students locked inside the academy, this sight would have been akin to a nightmare. Right on, poo-hoo-hoo. The three units began speaking in perfect harmony, as their 6 eyes looked up at Mukuro. Suddenly, they each jumped away in 3 separate directions and kicked off one of the walls. The path of each unit's triangular attack all converged on a single point, Mukuro, who was still clinging to the ceiling. She was surrounded by razor-sharp claws coming at her from different directions, but this situation wasn't even a nightmare to Mukuro. Compared to the time she fended off the 3 assassins who had invaded her camp one night back when she was still a member of Fenrir, this was nothing. This thought crossed Mukuro's mind as she dangled from the ceiling with one hand and thrashed her limbs around like a tornado. Intercepted by this move, the Monokumas fell to the floor with a loud crash. Mukuro landed on the ground and chased after one of them, brandishing her metal bar. Suddenly, she stopped moving and took a huge leap back. One of the Monokumas exploded with a deafening roar. He had detonated the bomb inside of himself in an attempt to take Mukuro down with him. But thanks to her own battlefield instincts, Mukuro managed to avoid the explosion. She looked toward the hallway, expecting the explosion to have attracted the attention of Sakura and the others, but she didn't hear any footsteps approaching. Monokuma's voice rang from within the dense smoke. Oh, you don't have to worry. I already told the other students to assemble in the cafeteria. They were eager to follow my orders after I told them I'd disarm the poison gas, and that special police unit was coming to get them. I'm pretty sure Kyoko and the others are all in the cafeteria by now. I'm sure Makoto is with them too. I doubt Sakura will get too rough with him, but I'm sure Byakuya will torture Makoto once he wakes up. I can just imagine him rubbing salt and pouring soul sauce onto his open wounds. Man, I'm getting all hot and bothered right now. As she listened to Monokuma's overlapping voices, Mukuro tilted her head slightly and asked, I'm pretty sure they're still going to find out that you lied about that special police unit. Are you really okay with that? No worries. Once I've dealt with you, I don't care at all if they find out I was lying. You still don't get it? You're such a disappointment. It suddenly dawned on Mukuro, not the reason why Monokuma didn't care if the students found out he lied, but rather that the voices of Monokuma and the smoke were gradually increasing in number. Oh boy. As the smoke started to clear, the shadows of 3 Monokumas appeared. The one that exploded couldn't have revived, so a new one must have come to take its place, but there's no way Mukuro only heard 3 Monokumas talking just now. As if to prove her hearing had been accurate, the Monokumas suddenly made their move. The three Monokumas bent over and began twirling their upper bodies. From behind them, a new Monokumas emerged, like after images brought to life. The second row of Monokumas mimicked the earlier ones, with only one frame of delay, revealing even more Monokumas behind them. Eventually, Mukuro realized that there was 3 rows containing 10 Monokumas each. Wow, that's a little ridiculous. 30 Monokumas? Did you know this is called circle dance? Wait, called a circle dance. Monokuma's 30 voices spoken in perfect harmony as they divulged information that had nothing to do with the current situation. Mukuro already knew that multiple Monokumas were positioned throughout the academy, but only Junko knew how many Monokumas actually existed. Mukuro had no way of knowing if these 30 Monokumas were part of a larger contingent. The flock of two-tone teddy bears continued to twirl around. Mukuro felt like she was being bombarded with hypnotic images. Don't know why I started with that for a second. But faced with this abnormal sight, the ultimate soldier remained calm, and maintained her focus. She was nothing like the girl who had panicked earlier in the gym when Makoto was impaled. As she stood before 30 emissaries of despair, she slowed her breathing, and allowed her heart to accelerate. It was instinct, not fear or panic, that sent her blood racing throughout her body, speeding up the reaction time of her cells. As her senses sharpened, the Monokumas began speaking to her again. "Don't worry, I'll make sure that Makoto doesn't die. As long as everyone lives, I can reset their memories as many times as I want. That's alright. All your effort, hope, dreams, and determination are going right in the garbage heap." Monokumas took turns speaking in groups of 10, as if the mastermind controlling the Monokumas wanted to show off her ability to manipulate them. However, the ultimate soldier knew what the true purpose behind all this was. She strained her ears to hear the limit and noticed a certain sound hidden among the Monokumas' voices. Mukuro's face remained perfectly still as she kicked onto the floor. The moment she moved to the side, a roaring sound shook the entire entrance hall. The ceiling-mounted turrets in front of the gate started raining bullets down on Mukuro. Oh shit. The Monokumas were just the mastermind's decoy while she tried to blow her away. As if further trapping her, the Monokumas charged at Mukuro through the storm of bullets. Mukuro guessed that the masterminds programmed their movements in advance so they wouldn't get hit by a single bullet. She ran for the gates, evading waves of bullets and claws every step of the way. Programming 30 Monokumas and 2 turrets, while also protecting Mukuro's escape routes. This would be considered impossible for anyone, but Mukuro knew it was possible for Junko. As Ultimate Despair, she possessed despair-inducing abilities that surpassed the capabilities of any normal human. Her display of power was only filling Mukuro with despair. Despair. The screen playing out in front of Mukuro was brimming with despair. The adorably dead Monokumas laughed and danced like reapers as bullets whizzed through the air. It was despair to the point of absurdity, and it was all for Mukuro. But in the presence of such despair, Mukuro felt a strange serenity. For me? Junko's doing this all for me? Junko, are you watching me right now? In the end, perhaps Mukuro really was a disappointment. She clenched her fist. Junko, thank you. The sound of gunfire overshadowed her whisper, and Mukuro fell completely silent. As a member of the Ultimate Despair, Mukuro's heart was filled with joy. Though she was filled with emotion, her eyes had lost their sparkle. Silence filled the air. Even the gunfire from the turret seemed to stop for a moment. That was only illusion to the one controlling Monokuma. Something strong enough to silence the gunfire and avoid being picked up by the sensor spread throughout the school, with Mukuro at the center. I'll make sure I do this right. With that final thought, she closed her mouth and turned off her emotions. She ran through the waves of scorching bullets. The air around her began to grow colder. As this coolness spread through her heart, it began to beat in a mechanical fashion. Several seconds later, Mukuro's body and mind melded together and became one with her surroundings. Her temperature now dominated the battlefield. Despair bolts and Monokumas filled the area. Mukuro predicted their movement and jumped into the air without any hesitation. One of the Monokumas jumped at her, but she avoided his attack, kicked his body, and launched herself into midair. Bullets pierced through the space Mukuro was previously occupying, striking the falling Monokuma right through its eternal bomb. The impact of the bullet caused it to explode, sending fiery Monokuma parts everywhere. As she rode the blast wave, Mukuro balanced herself in midair as she kicked away 3 Monokumas that leapt after her. She moved so gracefully, she was practically flying. In contrast, the Monokumas threw themselves into the path of oncoming bullets, exploding one after the other. Some of them exploded near the main entrance, but the blast didn't even leave a scratch. With full control over the entrance hall, Mukuro evaded bullets and confirmed that the bombs inside Monokumas weren't enough to destroy the door. But she refused to stop. Mukuro needed to get information on what she must do to escape the academy. She had no desire to kill Junko. Mukuro wanted to fill Junko with despair by instilling hope into the future of Makoto and the other students. That was Mukuro's ultimate goal. Get information. In contrast to her determination, her mouth stayed shut. But this did not mean Mukuro was not currently speaking to Junko. The situation. The battle of death and destruction was a conversation of sorts for Mukuro. All she knew how to do was fight. She thought she wasn't interested in anything else. She thought she didn't need anything else. All Mukuro needed was was a sword to fulfill her sister's desires for despair. That purpose alone was the crux of her existence, and she lived her entire life convincing herself that she couldn't do anything else. That's why power was like a language to Mukuro. A battle to the death revealed more about her heart than mere words ever could. Her words were in the wind of savagery that blows across the battlefield, uprooting others who also speak the language of violence. This was true even against her sister. When Junko would berate her sister, Mukuro couldn't talk back. All she could do was cower and apologize profusely. But it's different now. For the first time, Junko was using a language her sister could actually recognize. The child of despair who tore the world apart was speaking to her sister with the language of power. Mukuro's heart filled with joy. For that reason, she strengthened her focus on her conversation with Junko, and that emotion began to gradually disappear. On this frigid battlefield, Mukuro continued her heated conversation. Endless rounds of despair fired from the school's turrets, but Mukuro's words intercepted every last violent shot that threatened to shatter her body and mind in half. She quickly realized that the Monokumas hadn't decreased in number at all, no matter how many she kept destroying. Not only that, she noticed that more Monokumas had been joining the fray until there were nearly 50 of them for Mukuro to fight. That's a little ridiculous. But Mukuro's resolve wouldn't break so easily. As she continued to wield her power, her heart began to fill with something that was neither hope nor despair. She learned despair from the being abandoned by Junko. She learned hope from her acts of violence. For Mukuro, who had no interest in this world, this small space in front of the gate was a reflection of her life, a representation of her perfect world. This disappointing girl, filled with endless disappointment, who knew of no other way to live, continued her lonely dance. She surrendered herself to the rhythm of despair, which accompanies the music of hope. Computer room's innermost area, Monokuma room. How much time had passed? The surveillance cameras at the gateways were capturing footage of countless Monokumas falling at the hands of a child who fought like a raging demon. The Monokumas bolstered their numbers, and now 100 of them were trying to sink their claws into Mukuro. Most of them were running on autopilot, reacting to her movement based on prior information they had received in advance. But despite standing before hundreds of mechanical adversaries, Mukuro's face showed no fear. She hadn't sustained a single injury, giving her a presence that was nearly divine to behold. Though Sakura Ogami was powerful enough to injure her arm, Mukuro in her current state could potentially fight Sakura to a draw now, without relying on firearms. She took complete control over the battlefield, taking in her surroundings as if they were part of herself. She dodged attacks from the rear, though she had eyes in the back of her head, and stabbed through Monokuma's weak points with her metal bar. No matter where the attacks came from, Mukuro deflected them as if her skin were covered in eyes. Describing her as ultimate no longer did her justice. Mukuro had transcended the boundaries of humanity and becoming a pure killing machine. But despite that, even though she understood the ludicrous power her sister possessed, Junko was not afraid. She felt not one iota of fear. After all Junko can feel is despair. She even started to admire her sister's attempt to fill her with despair, but that sentiment quickly filled Junko with an orgiastic ecstasy of despair. Junko knew. She knew that Mukuro was neither hope nor despair. She was just a phenomenon. A disappointing girl who no longer understood herself, who only knew how to be violent because it was all she could believe in anymore. Mukuro had become an avatar of destruction beyond that of any military force. She couldn't even be considered a soldier anymore. She was a natural disaster, like a typhoon or a tornado, or perhaps like gravity. She was now a fundamental force of the universe that only existed to bring despair to Junko. The mastermind enjoyed watching her sister go all out. If Mukuro destroyed everything and ruined her life, Junko would still be comforted by the despair. She could just go right ahead and overpower her. Junko considered this for a few seconds until a familiar hopeless habit reared its head. Her habit of getting so bored that it made her sick. The girl who had been grinning as she watched the screen now bore a look of calm stoicism, and she reached for the microphone connected to Monokuma's speakers. Mukuro was no longer human anymore, but Junko knew how to bring her back. It was a simple feeling, really, and with that hopeless feeling for Mukuro in mind, the mastermind said just one word: Mukuro. Oh boy. In front of the main entrance. Mukuro. That voice. It was calling her name. Instead of using Monokuma's voice filter, Junko's natural voice was coming out of the Monokuma unit. That's all it took. With one word, Mukuro Ukusaba stopped being a force of nature and became a person again. Monokuma would not miss this opportunity. As if moving to the beat of Mukuro's shaking heart, a torrent of claws leapt to attack her. But Mukuro trusted her instincts and twisted her entire body to fend off the attacks, leaving her with only a few scrapes around here and there. But the despair wasn't over yet. The ultimate despair didn't want to waste any time making her next move. Mukuro, watch out! Huh? As soon as Mukuro heard that voice, her mind went completely blank. There was no mistaking it. That was Makoto's scream. The scream that saved her from the spears of Gungar, and changed her destiny. No, that's wrong. It took her a tenth of a second to realize that the voice was just a sound clip that Junko had replayed. But it was more than enough to drag Mukuro, who had regained her humanity, into despair.